What's up, guys? Welcome to our fifth episode of Watch Me Work. Okay, if you noticed, I shortened the countdown to just a minute because I felt kind of bad for those who were watching the episodes after. Oops, sorry about that. You know, after the fact, watching it after it aired. So, actually, I have to say for you guys who watch these episodes after the fact or way after the live broadcast. Thank you, appreciate the support, and I see you guys. Uh, the numbers for all the episodes, the views are going up. You know, as the days go by. So I don't know. Part of me was thinking maybe I should just record these episodes and rather than just going live, right? But yeah, hello, hi, how are you guys? It's a very interesting episode tonight because we go back underwater where originally I really started my photography career. I was a filmmaker first and then a photographer second. And um it's funny because I never knew how to operate the camera before uh I went underwater. So it's funny how that happens. Hey Bricks, how are you doing? Okay. So that means that we will be oh my gosh, I was been mute the whole time. I just saw it now. Can you hear me now? Okay, this is crazy. Okay, I'm really sorry about that. So what happens is I automated everything to mute and unmute. For example, mute while the opening billboard was going on, and unmute when I start talking. But sometimes I do press it on my own, so I do apologize for that. Crazy. So let me let me backtrack. Uh, yeah, I'm not sure uh, if you guys heard it, but I it's a very interesting episode tonight because of the we're back underwater. We're doing Blackwater, and where underwater photography is where my photography career began. So again, I'd like to say hi to everyone who I wasn't able to say hi to because I did, but no one heard me. So that would be Bricks, who's always here in every episode for the past how many weeks, and there's also Mabel, who is gifting me with a slot for a Red Sea diving charter. So that's awesome. And of course, Randy, again, another watch me worker, watch me army, was been here for quite a while. Um, yeah, so there. So this episode is our fifth episode, and next week we are gonna do another giveaway, and it's gonna be coming from one of our sponsors. Yeah, you know what? Maybe you should message Chum and tell him to drop in. So again, next week we're gonna have another raffle from our sponsors, and our sponsors are actually Saramonic and Nanlite for Pavo bulbs. Mabel, it's your turn. Let's change the color of this bulb. What color would you want? And let's set that for the rest of the episode. Go. Hit me. So while we're waiting for Mabel as well, again, if you haven't yet, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And also, super chat is on. So if you want to send some love, do it. Just click that super chat button. You want to. Okay, so I want to. Okay, pink. Pink it is. Let's do pink. That's close to where we are though, Mabel. So let's okay, let's do pink. So let's say from yellow or green, let's do pink. There it is. Pink is the color of Mabel's bikini in Anilao. All right. It's true though. All right. Okay. So I want to talk about Blackwater. So let me share my screen so that you can have some context about what I am talking about. So this is what Blackwater is all about, right? Blackwater is a different experience. It's a very, very unique experience involving diving at night, right? So wait, let me backtrack. Okay, so these are the types of critters that you would see on a blackwater dive or photograph on a blackwater dive. And normally they're an inch or probably half an inch long, and they're really, really tiny. So you have to use a macro lens. So let me do the thing. Okay. All right. Okay, so this is Gutsy. So he's I was his apprentice for a while, and I learned everything about underwater photography, especially blackwater from him. So normally when it comes to blackwater, you try to time it with a new moon at least, but any night will do. You head out from the coast and you try to look for an area where in the ocean where the depth is around probably hundreds of meters deep. Sometimes it's 1,000 feet, 100 feet, hundreds of feet, or 1,000 feet. There's one time we dove, the seafloor was 2,000 feet deep. And the idea is that every night a great migration happens. All the critters from the depths, from the deep, go up to feed, and then come morning they go down again. So what you do is you head out on a boat, try to look for a spot where it's deep and where the tides and everything, the currents are in your favor. And then you drop a line. It's a 22-meter line with lights at 5-meter intervals. So you drop that like this. So you drop that from the boat, let it stew. And what happens is you attract all of these critters from the bottom, or who are going up from the bottom, and they come towards your light, right? And then that's when, after a few minutes, when you let it stew, you come in, you dive, and you can see the line right here, right? We have your lights, you have your strobes, and try to look for these critters as you go. So you just basically go up and down that line during the whole time. And it's a fascinating experience, and if you're not used to it, you could get sort of vertigo. Especially if, for example, you see a critter and you start photographing this small squid, and then their defense mechanism is if they feel threatened, they actually head down. So you tend to follow, but since it's dark, you don't notice it so much. And then next thing you know, after you've taken the shot, finally, it's very difficult to focus with a subject this small. When you look back at the 22-meter line, it's this big, and which basically means you're so far out, and you're really, really deep. So it does have that effect. And this is me taking photos during a blackwater dive. I think that's a salp right there, right here. And one of the coolest photos I've ever had taken of me. So this is at night. Obviously, it's blackwater. So you have the strobes and you have a focus light on, so that I use it to search or to focus. And I have usually you could also have a torch, to search for lights. And it's amazing because you get creatures like this one. Let me head to my Facebook. So for example, here, this is a swimming crab with eggs. So this is around 2 inches. This is a post larval matote blue ring octopus. So this was probably around the size of a pea. And you can see the faint outline of a ring here. It's a blue ring here, just right beneath the eye. And this is a juvenile purple-back squid. You can see that it's inking, so it feels threatened. This is also an octopod, again, the size of a pea. And this is a cottonmouth jack. So it's amazing what you can take photos of during a blackwater dive. And what hooked me about this is actually I'm not a big fan of macro photography. Those who I dive with know this, like Mabel and Mark, who just commented right now. Oh my god, I'm not even gonna read that on air. So yeah, but blackwater diving is a form of macro photography, and it rejuvenated my interest in macro. But it does come with challenges because obviously the water is dirty. You have so many particles. You have so much backscatter, and this is a perfect example of an unedited blackwater photo. Usually the challenges are that there's just so much stuff in the water that they all appear in your photo, right? And it's very difficult to photograph these critters because they're so small, and focus is also a problem, because again they're so small. You're talking about moving a few millimeters forward or backwards, but the end product is something like this, right? You want it to stand out against the black, which it faithfully represents. Okay, so how do we do it? It's actually not that different from how we edit our photos. So I've imported 3 photos here, those that I've shown previously. So this is one of, what is this again? This is an octopus, larval wonderpus, and then this is that octopod and that blue ring octopus. So what you can immediately see the problems here. The backscatter is a problem. Here, lighting is a problem. It's too dark. Probably my lights weren't arranged wrong. If I remember correctly, this is one of the times where I was photographing something else and then this appeared. So I immediately turned and took photos of these. This was last year. So I wasn't really set up for it. And then here is an example of it being too overexposed and being too small in the frame, right? So let me adjust myself here. All right, so let's get started with the larval octopus. So I'll do a signposting. I will edit this in Lightroom and then finish it off in Photoshop. Okay, so let's go ahead and deal with this this image. So the first thing that I would wow, why does that keep happening? I'm so sorry. Okay, my audio keeps on turning off. Let me. Okay, guys, I'm really Okay, I don't know what happened when I opened Lightroom. Okay, can you guys hear me now? Okay, so if it started when I opened Lightroom, then let me backtrack again. Wow, this is getting harder and harder to solve. Okay, so these are the photos that we're tackling today. So just a quick backtrack. The larval wonderpuss, and then the octopod, and the blue ring octopus. Okay, and then so the problems are here. Obviously, is the backscatter. Here, the problem is it's underexposed, and then here it's overexposed and it's too small in the frame. And so now I'm looking at my monitor every so often just to make sure that my mic is turned on. Okay, so going into this, I cropped it right away, mainly because I want to remove the areas where I'm not gonna include anyway. I don't want to waste time editing out those backscatter if I'm not gonna use them anyway, right? Okay, so global adjustments first. Bring up the shadows, just that we have more detail, because again, it's really really dark when you're shooting this, and also the highlights. So before I realized that there was no audio, I was saying that highlights have to be lowered because most of the parts or the skin of these creatures are very reflective. So you have to reduce the highlights just so that you can reduce the glare as well. Also, the blacks are equally as important because you want to crush those blacks in an attempt to reduce the glare and also hide, quite possibly, some of the backscatter. But of course, you can't remove all of that immediately. Clarity is crucial as well. As you need to add definition to the subject and some dehaze. So dehaze works and works really well when it comes to underwater, because it solves that water column that you have to deal with every time that you're shooting. So when you have dehaze, you bring out more of the detail and the vibrance and reduce all that sort of foggy effect. And again, vibrance is crucial because it saturates all your cool colors. So maybe around 20 would do. And again, when it comes to detail, I turn off all the sharpening. Okay. Do I touch contrast? I rarely do, because again, I solve contrast after. So if you actually push your exposure to the max, you can see all of the backscatter, all the stuff that you have to deal with, and how dirty the water is, right? When I say dirty, I mean dirty for photo. It doesn't mean that the water is actually dirty in that sense, but you can see how much glare it also reflects, and how much backscatter there is. So usually I just leave this as is, or maybe just increase it a bit, maybe half a stop, and there you go. So I'll just perfect the cropping slightly. So again, my process is condensed and abbreviated. Normally I would do this quite differently. And then the next part is I bring it into Adobe Photoshop. Yeah, it's like a miso soup, actually. Exactly. All right, so we bring it into Photoshop. All roads lead to Photoshop, mainly because it just has all that power to edit all of these out, and you can see right away what you have to deal with. So, okay, so Photoshop has this feature wherein you can separate the background from the foreground. So that is the problem here with this photo, and that is the fact that you have that backscatter. So the fastest way to do it is if you could separate the subject from everywhere, from the background, then you can work better. So I would usually duplicate this layer and then go to, I believe it's properties. There, properties. And you have this feature called select subject, and it tries to approximate where your subject is. And it does a good job of actually selecting it, as you can see right there. So let's undo that. So just go to the layer and then select subject, and it approximates the subject quite well. And what I will do is just mask that out and then put a black solid color under it. And voila. You sort of solve that in just one click. Yeah. It's not perfect, of course. There may be parts of the image that, for example, here, you notice that it didn't cut out these areas also. So you can easily fix that by selecting the magic wand tool. And like here. Right. And then just going back and filling those out with black. So masking is quite advanced, but there is a way for you to just study it and refer to it later on. So here it is. I have masked it out. It's not perfect though. So for example, here you can see that it cut out part of the head. So it's very easy to just paint that in again. Somewhere. Like this, like so. And then paint back some of the other stuff as well, just to make sure you're not missing out on anything. So Randy right here is a professional graphic designer and final artist. So what he's saying that you can also select and mask function trick. Yes, that actually works as well. The thing is, I know of it, but I don't know how to use it. So the thing is, there is more than one way. If you've attended my Photoshop workshops, Anne has, there's more than one way to edit an image or to achieve your vision, and that is it. Okay, so I think we're pretty good here. What I would probably do next is do a healing brush and clean out all these other backscatter right here and there. So while I've painted over the backscatter like so, if I reduce the opacity, you can see all of it again. I try not to make it too perfect, right? I can increase it slightly so that some of the backscatters are showing, like maybe probably 85 to 90%. I don't want it too perfect. I don't want it too clean because that's not how it is in real life. There is a thin line between wildlife or documentary reportage photography and what do you call this? Fine art, right? So I try not to do that. Okay, next step is to actually make a duplicate of all these and just flatten it, and then go into my favorite plugin, which is Nik Collection. Here, go to Automate and go to Nik Selective Tool and go into Color Effects Pro. So why do I want to do this? I use this again for finishing. Right? So if I wanted to increase the contrast or the opacity, so I would probably go with the brilliance and warmth, maybe to increase the perceptual saturation, to make it slightly more saturated. This is how it is right now. And sorry, I haven't turned it on. Let me show you. Nik Collection and perceptual saturation, just increase it a bit, and that's what happens, right? And to the utmost extreme. You just want probably just 10%. Right. And then next is to add contrast to it. And when I add contrast, I will also just do a bit of color contrast and make sure that the definition between colors are more pronounced. Like so, maybe 7 or 10%. It's just you're working with small numbers here, mainly because you don't want to overbake the image. And then you also want to add some pro contrast as well. The final contrast, which is dynamic contrast. And it just really makes the image pop so much more. Like so. And then you just apply it. And there. Right? And then the final step would be to duplicate this again and sharpen it. The way I would sharpen it, just like before, is go to duplicate it, go to filters, other, and high pass, a setting of 3.3 pixels, and then go into high pass. Sorry, hard light. Change the blending mode to hard light, and there you have it. So this is what we have right now. This is before. So this is before it was sharpened, and this is after it was sharpened. So you can see how much more detail you have with the photo. And you just save that, and it gets brought back into Lightroom, like so. So, okay. Hold on. Drag and drop a photo from the film strip. Okay, there you go. Okay, let's reset this. Oh, sorry. Let me reset the settings. Okay. So we have the TIFF file right here and the original file right here. Okay. So that is it. That is your final image. This is what it was previously, but of course with global adjustments already. And this is it. The final photo. Okay, let's do a quick work on another one, which is more problematic on the other end of the spectrum, and that would be this this octopus, blue ring octopus. So here the problem is that it's too small in the frame, and I'm just going to crop the hell out of this and just go to town with it and go make it fill the frame. Obviously, I would have preferred to get closer, but I think by the time I was able to, it just scrammed, you know. So here is the photo of that closer. So that's more than 10%. Sorry, that's more than a 50% crop, obviously. And just again, apply the shadows again to bring out the detail, and the highlights, just crush those highlights. Sorry, lower those highlights and crush those blacks just to add more definition to it. And then bring up the clarity around 30 and the vibrance up to around 27. Increase the exposure as well slightly, just a bit, and then turn off sharpening. And again, I'm doing this really fast. Let's go to Photoshop and do the same process that we did before. If it's that problematic, I just duplicate it and then select subject. Wow, perfect. Mask it and then add a black layer, solid color here, just to hide everything else and just to lower the opacity again, just to have some of those imperfections come out, like so. Looks good. And then we'll go into Color Effects Pro once more and just do the same thing, which is to increase the perceptual saturation, right, by around 10%. Add contrast, color contrast to it. Not too strong. Okay, and then lower the contrast as well. Okay, just a bit. Okay, and then add pro contrast for the final dynamic contrast. Again, just a bit, just 10%. Okay, and you got it. All right, and then what we do next is add some detail by doing high pass, and then just moving to hard light. And look at that. Look at how much detail we brought back from an image that at first seemed unusable. I think though it's the sharpness too strong, so I'll use a softer blending mode, which is soft light. Okay, so save that. I forgot one step though. I forgot to add there it is. I forgot to add a bit of dehaze to it. So it is normal for me to do more additional tweaks in Lightroom again, just to bring out to make the image work even more. And there you have it. So let's look at the last two images that we have. That would be that and this. There you go. So this is one, and this is the other. It's actually that simple. So again, excuse me. I did the work of 2 edits in 15 minutes. In real life, I would probably do this for probably 30 minutes or more. So yeah, it just this is really fast. You know, it's like I edit this in hyperlapse. Okay, so let's move on to some questions and some comments from you. If you haven't yet, please do like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Right, and if you appreciate, if you want to send some love, super chat is on again, and super thanks is also on for this video. So you know what? Let's play some music as we answer some questions. So let's okay, so from Mark, sometimes a few backscatter can complete the photo. I completely agree. I'm not a big fan of super clean photos underwater, especially when it comes to Blackwater, because we all know how dirty that water is. If you look at this one again, go to the NEF file and you max out the exposure, you can see just how dirty or filled with backscatter this environment is. Okay, next from Mabel. It is bluer because you increased the color contrast. So let's look at that again. Let's show that. So it is bluer because you increased the vibrance and the contrast as well. But the thing is, there was no adjustment done on the color temperature. Okay, so meaning that this is the color of that particular subject. So there were no manipulation whatsoever in terms of color. You just added more color contrast, and vibrance as well. You saturated the blue color, so it really comes out as is, like that. Okay. Okay. From Marcus, when you reduce the sharpening from Lightroom and you add high pass on Photoshop, what sort of details is high pass trying to pop out? So what high pass does is that it tries to find the edges of your photo and focuses on how do I say this? It focuses on defining that even more, right? It's just that The only thing I have against Lightroom is that the sharpness seems uneven or too even, if you know what I mean. But when it comes to high pass, it's a more specific and accurate way of sharpening the areas that actually need sharpening, right? Okay. From Maybell, who are your favorite Blackwater photographers and why? Of course, that has to be Gutsy Tuason. And then Mike Bartik is actually one of my favorite Blackwater photographers. And I may be missing out on others. Ram Yoro also, who invented bonfire. So rather than going out to sea to look for a deep spot where you can do Blackwater, you can just look for a shallow one, put lights on the seafloor, and just wait for things to come out. So that's why it's called bonfire. Yeah, those are probably the ones. And these are, I'm very specific about these. There are so many good Blackwater photographers, but there is an eligibility clause in it, for me at least, that these are photographers I know do not manipulate or trap these creatures just to be able to take a good photo. From Bricks, what camera did you use to capture those images? I am using a Nikon Z7. Combination, it's a Z7 or a Z6. It has been a sort of urban legend that mirrorless isn't fast enough to take photos, fast enough to focus and take photos of Blackwater subjects. But you know, I've had some success with these photos, and I'm pretty happy with how it's been doing. Yes, because the images are so sharp. Of course, because I believe the Nikon Z7 is 45 megapixels as is, and you have really good sensor, really good image processor. So it all, you know, combined, it really works. I got my Nikon Z7 back in, I believe it's 2019 or the start of 2019, and I've been using it ever since. This is the longest I've ever been with a camera model. I started out with a Nikon D800, went to Sony A7 R2, then Nikon D850, which I believe is the best DSLR ever made. I had a Nikon D500, which is one of the fastest, also a good little brother tandem for the D850, and then now Nikon Z7, Z6. So the Z9 would probably be, you know, even more awesome than this. So I see 8 people here. Please like this video. I'm only seeing 5 likes. I just want to bring up also that next week, our 6th episode will not be an underwater video, but we are raffling off another amazing prize from one of our sponsors, right? And at the same time, you have discount codes down below in the description. So you can get discounts from whether the Pavo bulb or the mics that I'm using. You can use them for podcasts or the like, or for your own Zoom meetings. That'll go a long way. They really appreciate what everyone has been giving as means of support. Okay, so do you shoot in burst while in Blackwater? How's the recycle time of your strobes? No, I actually shoot single shot to give the lights or my strobes time to recycle. Exactly what you mentioned. To preserve that. There are some strobes that are faster in terms of cycle time, but I'm using Z330s now. I just realized that I shot these with Z240s. I now have the newer one, and they're amazing. Absolutely love it. I just get thrown off by the diffusers, the half dome diffusers. I think they're messing up my photos. Okay, from Anne, what's the difference between editing color contrast in Lightroom, Photoshop, and Nik Collection? It's all about control. So you have specific functions, right? Let's say you have a contrast slider. Let's oversimplify this. Let's say you have a contrast slider in Lightroom. You have a contrast function or adjustment layer in Photoshop, and then another in Nik Collection, right? So the Photoshop obviously has the most robust effect. You know, when you're talking about the best feature ever, that would be in Photoshop, because Lightroom is simulating what Photoshop is doing, right? So Lightroom is taking all these Photoshop features and then adding cataloging and so on with it, right? So if I had the option, I would just adjust contrast in Photoshop. But for the benefit of time, I would just edit everything in Lightroom. Now, color effects is more of a recipe of contrast. It also has the same feature, but it's more attuned to what photographers tend to look for. Mainly because Nik Collection was designed by photographers as an add-on for their process. But at the same time, for example, camera raw function. Let's say you shoot in raw and you put it in Lightroom. It's a different interpretation as opposed to if you put the raw file through Capture One or the raw file into Adobe Camera Raw first and into Photoshop. Each software has a different take to how these processes are done. So when it comes to interpreting raw, Capture One is actually the best. I used it for a while in 2018. My photos I was really, really happy with my photos straight out of camera because I was using also Capture One. It just did it so well to open and manipulate the raw files. So it's really also to taste, and so whether you could be happy with color contrast in Lightroom, but I would like you to recommend that you try it in the collection. Just download the trial and then see what you like and what you don't like, and you just pick each one. We rarely stay within one software anyway, right? So might as well try everything. So for example, I do all my global adjustments in Lightroom. I do all of my sharpening and so on in Photoshop, and then my finishing in the collection. But this is just really how I discovered my process. But yeah, amazing. Thank you for that question. That was really good. You know what? I'm gonna have one more underwater session before this season ends. So we are at episode 5. I'm slated to have 12 episodes, and Scuba Studio just raised their hands and said, why don't we do a giveaway for one of your episodes? So we may do another one. Maybe I can do something for free diving or editing photos of humans, divers underwater, free divers in fact. So we can do a giveaway again then. So please stay tuned for that. So any other questions? I love how the questions are so, I can see that there's motivation behind them. Yeah, so if you are familiar, I just wanted to add, if you are familiar with Photoshop, if you've gone through workshops on Photoshop or you attended my workshop on Photoshop, you know that you have more control in Photoshop. For me, that's what's important. Control is the keyword for me when it comes to software and features. Whether it's control the amount of control I can do, or the type of control it gives me. So that is what matters to me when choosing a particular software for a particular part of the process. So yes, so that was a fun episode. I wish I could do more. Actually, maybe I'll have a part 2 for Blackwater. There are some photos that we haven't tackled for Blackwater, such as very, very reflective surfaces. Like if you took a photo of that cottonmouth jack, that can be a problem as well. Have you done portrait photos for freediving? Yes, I have. I photographed Chao Campo actually last year, or was that 2 years ago, with both a phone and a camera. So maybe I was thinking of using that. Save probably an opportunity to photograph a prenup, so that would probably be better. So yeah, thank you very much for joining me for this episode. That was it's always fun to have friends over and to have such an engaging session. And next week, same time, 9 p.m. see you here for Watch Me Work. I'll probably do a session on how to edit your photos from your phone, whether it's on your laptop, whether it's on your Mac or on your iPad. So I'll figure it out in the next couple of days. So thank you guys. I will see you in the next episode. And remember that if you want to lessen the time that you're working in post, try to get it right straight out of camera. Thank you and have a good night. Oh, wait. Marvic is here. Hey, what's up, Avic? How are you doing? Sorry, Avic is one of my friends who's a photographer as well. I love her photos. And Pen de Los Santos is a legend in the industry. And the fact that they dropped in, yeah, that's quite something. Thank you for honoring me with your attendance. Yes. Yes. And of course, I'm just a comment away, a message away. So, yeah, thank you guys for coming over again, and see you next week.